in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
I mean, most of our bullpen, you could look at each one of these guys for a little while now. It's been a while where they've all thrown the ball pretty well. And when you're a position player and you know that your guy's going out there and he's probably going to give you a good effort and he's probably going to put up a 0, it gives you all the confidence and courage to go out there and play the way that you can. You're not wondering about what's going to happen next. You're just worrying about doing your job at the moment, and you know that those guys are going to give you a boost. The game gets shortened up and it feels good.
I said something to you guys, I think it was late last week. Judd and I matching hats here, Purple Daily hats. Looks like
that's cute.
Pretty
Look
exciting.
at that swag, huh?
Yeah, we are shills for our other podcast, which you can find a full breakdown of the Kellen Mond slicing off the roster on today's episode of Purple Daily. So go check that out. I said something. Yeah, there's the koozie. I said something last week, and people laughed at me. I think I saw Judd chuckle a couple times, too, in my face on this show. People mocked. They ridiculed. They toilet papered my house. They sent threatening messages to my family. Okay, we had to get the authorities involved.
Wow.
And all I said was, the Twins are losing a lot of games here, but they stack up pretty nicely. Some of the pieces they have, they stack up pretty nicely for a playoff series. And if you look at the formula last night, it wasn't even one of their best starters. It was Dylan Bundy. Get into the fifth. Just have it not be a train wreck. Just get into the middle innings, fifth, sixth inning, couple runs, 2-3 runs, whatever. Okay. Set it up for the bullpen. Take a 2-run lead into the late innings. Could be a 1-run lead, whatever it is. And then you go lefty specialist, Caleb Thielbar. He's having a pretty good season. Had a little rough patch there for a while. And then you got Duran and Lopez to get 6 to 8 outs wherever you need them. 7th and 8th, 7th and 9th like it was last night. And you might have to mix in another reliever in there somewhere like a Griffin Jacks. But take that 2-run lead into the last third of the game. Let some of your big bats come up with some clutch hits. They've got 4 or 5 guys in their lineup. Gio Urshela, I think, is one of them. Carlos Correa, Luis Arraez, Miranda, Buxton when he comes back at some point. I'm just saying, they've been through a lot of it self-inflicted, some of the bad play. But at the end of the day, last night was another good example of you can win a playoff game with this team. You can win a playoff series. I'm not saying you're going to beat the Yankees, but if you play the Blue Jays or the Rays in a playoff series, there's some pieces here. I'm going to duck for cover. I know I'm saying it, that I sort of like the bones of this team still, even though they've struggled since May 24th.
All due respect, I agree on this. I like the back end. The back end's nice. The back end's got some quality there now. Those trades were good trades. Like they might... If the Twins fail and don't make the playoffs, then yes, you traded prospects. I think we could probably have a discussion there. But I mean, we applauded it at the time, and I continue to. That bullpen had 1 or 2 decent chips or good chips in the case of Duran, and now it's solid. I guess my question is this: so just to try and forecast things. Who do we think they would get in the playoffs at Target Field if they win the division?
I'm glad you asked that question because right now, so they're a game and a half back of Cleveland. They're actually closer to Cleveland than they are the third wild card spot. So
they're gonna have to win the division. I think
their best path is the division. They also have to leap over the Orioles to get to the 3 wild card teams right now, and they're 2 back of the Orioles. So right now the division is the path. If they were in first place right now, so Cleveland right now would play the Toronto Blue Jays in a 3-game series in Cleveland. All 3 games would be in Cleveland.
Okay.
Because right now the Rays are the number 1 wild card team, the Mariners are number 2, and those 2 teams, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think I have this right. They would play each other, and then the Blue Jays, the 3rd wild card team, would play the 3rd division winner.
Correct.
While the top 2 division winners, the Yankees and the Astros, watch it all play out for a few days, right? They would get...
That's right.
So they would... Is that correct? The
Yes,
wild card round is independent of those other 2 teams?
Yep.
Yes, those 2 teams go to the ALDS automatically.
Okay. And so, yeah, I think it's all up for grabs right now because the Rays are only a game up on the Jays with the Mariners sandwiched between. Those are 3 teams separated by 1 game. So it all could change. The Orioles could get in the mix. The White Sox are still technically in the mix here, more for the division than the wild card.
Lord help us on that. So here's my thought process is I think this all comes down to this. Who do you get? If you get the Rays here, I like how this stacks up. I think, Phil, your assessment last week, full disclosure, I did chuckle, I think, 3 times. I think your assessment of last week is now accurate. If you get the Jays, who've got guys that can hit really well, I think it becomes dicier because I'm not sure your starters get you to where, because like last night, which to be clear was I thought a fun game and a nice win against a Boston team that is sort of a mess. But anyway, I thought last night was indicative of exactly what the Twins are capable of doing, probably near their best point, right? Like you get Bundy, he's not great, but I think he gives up 2 runs in 5, gives way. You start to bring in Duran against, the toughest part of the Sox lineup. So if you get Toronto, I don't like your chances. If you get Tampa Bay, and I'm talking about to win this thing. So I'm talking about to win the wild card round. If you get the Rays here, I like your chances. Yes, you can win a playoff game. Like, I hope you can. Like, if we really think if they make the playoffs, I think they're going to be swept in 2 again, specifically at home. That's a complete joke.
Well,
but yes, I think the Rays are a team that would give you an opportunity at least to probably actually advance through the wildcard round.
See, for a long time, and there's been some different Twins teams that maybe don't fall in this category, but in the 2 decades of playoff failures, I think overridingly the Twins have had a formula of a bunch of number 3 starters in their rotation, like post TJ Liriano, Pavano, and Scott Baker or Brian Dunsing. Like they've once Johan Santana left in free agency, they're mostly bringing like a bunch of number 2, number 3 starters to a playoff series, and then they face a Yankees team or whoever, an Astros team with a clear-cut number 1 or something, and so you're already just behind the 8 ball.
Right.
And then you've got a bullpen where it's like you might have a closer, but it's really more like just a hodgepodge of guys. None of them are throwing 100 miles an hour. It's just it's a good 1 through 25 roster that gets you to 90 wins. But then when you get to the playoffs, it's like, ooh, I don't know if I like how this matches up. This year's Twins team feels a little bit the opposite, where you're just kind of praying they can get close to 90 wins to get in, because once they get in, you start to trim some of the fat. You don't have to use some of these peripheral pieces. You've got, and I'm not saying that you've got a Max Scherzer in your starting staff here, but Sonny Gray is a damn good starting pitcher. And we've seen Joe Ryan at his best. Joe Ryan can be lights out for 6 or 7 innings at his best. And Tyler Mahle can come in, and he's on a rehab assignment here. So he can come in and get strikeouts. So I love the top. They've got a bunch of like B+ starting pitchers, and on any given day, like a couple of these guys can be ace caliber starting pitchers, and they have it in their careers. And then you get to the bullpen, it's like, okay, well, if I can get 6 innings out of Sonny Gray, now I don't have to worry about half my bullpen. Mm-hmm. And if I can get to the 8th inning, I've got these 100 mile an hour, 96 to 100 mile an hour flame throwing guys. Like you can see a shortened path in some of these games with this particular Twins team that might not have existed with previous iterations, where it's like, well, we got to run Randy Dobnak out there in game 2, and so we're going to have to use 8 relievers to get our way home, and you're screwed. That doesn't have to be the formula for this team if they can get in.
Do you trust them, though? Do you trust Rocco to do the exact right thing in a playoff game? Because we have not seen it yet.
Well, the formula that I just laid out is actually like determined at 2:00 in the afternoon. So I would say let's go into this game. Right. Sonny Gray is your game 1 starter, and he's going to go for sure 2 times through the order, and then against a good lineup we'll have him on watch. Yep. But let's get 5 innings out of Sonny Gray, and then from there we've got 4 innings to patchwork. We know that 6 of those outs at least. You can maybe even get Duran into a 2nd inning, maybe like an inning and a third, 2/3.
Yep.
But let's say 6 outs for sure are accounted for by your 2 best relievers. If those guys give it up, you just tip your cap. So now I only have to fill maybe an inning or two with other relievers, and I can go match up with my lefty. So I'm just saying, like, it's not, I don't think you're going to have to, you can decide a lot of this stuff at 2 o'clock in the afternoon just the way they like it once you get to the playoffs.
So they have the resources, I think, to win a playoff game if they have the lead going into, the 5th or 6th inning. They do. They have the bullpen options, and also I would say the acquisitions at the deadline are worth it regardless. Like if we're gonna be Twins revisionist history, like, oh my God, I still can't believe now we gave up our 7th and 21st and 26th and 16th best prospect. Seriously, go away. Like, just go away if that's still your mindset. They had to do this trade. And if they didn't make these trades, now you're going back and you're still playing revisionist history saying, I can't believe they didn't make any moves at the deadline. And now here we are out of first place and not going to make the playoffs. So the trades were undoubtedly worth it. They were. From the side of who do you want to play, I think Minnesota sports fans, too, also sometimes get into this habit of tunnel visioning themselves into trying to find and matching up against the worst team. And I get the logic there to a degree. But you're going to have to face someone. You're going to have to face someone that's probably pretty dang good. Wild fans did this when they wanted to play Vegas 2 years ago after they came back to the pandemic. Oh, we match up so well against Vegas. I don't want to play Colorado. Let's play Vegas. Let's play Vegas. And Vegas still ended up beating you in 7 games. But you're going to have to play someone good to be in the playoffs. You don't just get to play the Royals and the Tigers again just because you're in the postseason. You have to go through some type of juggernaut. Some people kind of mocked us when and I think it was Dave St. Peter came on the station and said, let's slay the dragon. Though here we go again with the Yankees. You got to go through them. You have to go through them. And you have to get there by going through one of the better teams. So whoever it is, whether it's Toronto or Tampa Bay, certainly I agree with Judd that Tampa Bay's probably provides you the path of winning that series more than Toronto because the Blue Jays offense is pretty damn good. But regardless, I'm going to see someone that's really, really good in the playoffs. That's just the nature of it.
The problem too is
you're going to avoid Yankees Astros though in the first round. That's the best. I mean, so you are going to avoid those teams. You will get a shot at a non-Yankees team in the first round.
Yeah. So here's the other important game philosophy if we're trying to win a playoff game, just one game, okay? As pathetic as that sounds. The other important thing is to also look at not who's doing well, but how they'll do in a playoff game. Because I'm sorry, but the Giants were playing, and I think they came into the series on Friday a game under 500, but they were playing bad baseball, and Boston's not that good. But that being said, okay, in a playoff game, I think you've got to be prepared to, if Falvey comes in my office and I'm Rocco at 2 o'clock on the first day, my office door is locked, and here's why. You've got to be prepared for Sonny Gray, I think, to go 7. And here's why I think it's important. Thielbar and Jax, I really like them. And I think that in the right situations, they've done a great job. And I'd like to pat them on the back and say, you've done a great job. But that being said, if Sonny Gray is pitching well, i.e. Maeda, Barrios against the Astros, okay? The guys I really trust are Duran and Lopez. I trust Duran more, but I'm saying, with what I brought Lopez here for, I certainly am not going to not pitch him. But if I have a pitcher who is going well, a bulldog type of veteran starter, Gray qualifies as exactly that. Beyond a matchup of sorts for 3 batters, do I want to bring Thielbar in? I'd prefer not to if my starter's pitching well. So I do think the philosophy has to be adjusted a bit, because I think where we get into trouble is, well, it worked against the Red Sox. It worked against the Giants. And yeah, that's great. But in a playoff game, which I think is a unique circumstance, depending on how my starter is going, I think the 2 p.m. edict is ridiculous if the guy is pitching well.
That's the conundrum that you just laid out, that it's almost certainly going to have to be confronted if they do get to the playoffs in the exact form you just mentioned, where the numbers don't lie. Sonny Gray, for his career over 10 years or 8 years or whatever it's been, he's been just fine third time through the order, not much different than second time. This year, third time through the order has been a disaster for him. It's a fairly small sample size, and that we're talking about, 20 starts and like 60 plate appearances or something. In fact, I'm pulling it up right now. His third time through the order, he has given up a 776 OPS, which is it's about 80 points higher than the second time through the order. Batting average 304 third time through, 218 second time through. So this has been a real thing this year. I think the question is, hey, do you let a guy who's in his early 30s, who's been around the block a few times, figure out the adjustment, especially with prep time going into a playoff game? Hey, you're going to face the Blue Jays in 3 days, in 5 days. You know that you're going to face them. And we really, really would prefer to not have to run 5 relievers out there and hope that they're all having their best stuff and that they're all mentally quiet and everything, right? Sonny, we need you to be effective at least a partial way the third time through the order because we'd really like to get 6 innings out of you. Do you trust him to make the adjustment on the fly in a playoff game? Or do you say, let's not even tempt it. The numbers are what they are this year. You get us 2 trips through. We're going to have to use 5 relievers to get through this game. I would rather Sonny Gray just take matters into his own hands and figure out the adjustment against that lineup on that day. But the reality is he hasn't been great at it so far in 2022. Now, you could plan in a close playoff game, you could plan to run Duran out there early. Like, hey, man,
Yep.
So we're not going to save you guys till the 8th, 9th innings here. If it's a close game and we need to go to you in the 5th inning, and it's the heart of their order third time through, we're going to bring Duran in to finish the 5th and get through the 6th, and then we'll play matchups with Caleb Thielbar or something in the 7th, knowing that Lopez is waiting in the wings in the 9th inning. And that's where I think you have to be a little more nuanced as a manager. Maybe you can plan some of this stuff at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But to what extent will they trust a veteran pitcher to figure it out the third time through the order, or will they go to an inexperienced guy like Griffin Jax and say, hey, you're the fresh arm here, and the analytics would say that you make sense on paper, but your pulse is beating through your neck because you've never been in this situation before.
Exactly.
Which is what happened to Cody Stashak.
Yes. And so I think that decision has to be made solely based on one thing. How is Sonny Gray pitching? Because what drove me crazy about the 2 losses to the Astros with Barrios and Maeda was this. They were both pitching really well. And look, I have no problem with the fact that the statistics speak. Like I'm not saying I'll dismiss the statistic, dismiss what the third time through stats are. But I am saying this. At some point in time, you have to weigh the human element of, oh my God, this guy's pitching really well. And Phil, you're exactly right as well. Like if he's had time to prepare for this start, this is not June 5th. Like if this is game 1 of the playoffs, this is not it's not a Wednesday night in Cleveland, right? And so I think that's where the Twins fall woefully short. And I'm going to tell you right now, and there might be a faction of people who watch this who think I'm crazy, but I think that if Sonny Gray is pitching well, the empowerment of sticking with him for like 6, so I'm not saying 9, for like 6, I think the empowerment there speaks volumes, not to your fan base, your players. Your players, because there is an element then there of trust of, you know what, man, you are pitching really well. Your career statistics say that the third time through, you're fine. Your recent stats don't, but you know what? You're pitching well enough that in a playoff game, you've earned this. And as an observer of the Twins, I would feel a lot better to see Sonny Gray give it up than Griffin Jax come in, as you said, frazzled, nervous, and collapses. I would rather see the starter actually see it through a bit than to go to this rotation of bullpen guys because, oh my goodness, it's just that time.
I love how we've just pinned Griffin Jax for being unable to handle a moment that we've never really seen him in. Sorry to Griffin Jax.
But to Judd's point, like that has Cody Stashak 2.0 written all over it. Like that's what happened to Stashak in 2019, and I think even in 2020, that he pitched in some big spots in the regular season. He looked like he could be probably the third man out of that pen that could be reliable, and he clearly wasn't ready for the moment. So I agree. I think you should use your best relievers in the highest leverage of situations. So if it's 2nd and 3rd and 1 out, and the Blue Jays have Vlad Guerrero Jr. up, probably time to go to Duran now. You can't be waiting until the 8th or 9th. This is the chance to get an out and get out of this jam now. But you do have to use these relievers in the right situations.
Of course, we are nowhere near the Twins actually being in the playoffs yet because they are still behind Cleveland and they are even further back in the wild card. According to ESPN.com today, the Twins have a 42% chance to make the playoffs. Cleveland's at 64%. They're giving a higher percentage beyond 100% because they could technically both still make the wild card. And then the White Sox are down to 12.4%. They've lost 8 of their last 10 games, including 4 in a row, and are now 2 games below 500. One more Twins thing real quick, and then we have to get to kind of an explosive Alex Rodriguez-related story that pertains to Wolves ownership before the show is over in a Judd packing order. But let's shout out our friends who've helped Judd over the past year lose and keep a lot of weight off.
That would, of course, be my friends who I've been talking about for months now. Livia Weight Control Centers, down 40 pounds, the best part, keeping it off. And Dawn, she joined because she said, Judd, you've lost all this weight. It's not fair that it's just you. And I said, you're exactly right, sweetheart. She's down now 16 pounds. And I've been getting notes the last few weeks. It's great. People down 30 pounds, 35 pounds, basically saying, Judd, you're wrong about a lot of things, but you were right about this. And that is that this weight loss, weight control program is as simple as it gets. And now I want you, if you're looking to drop some weight, to join me, join Dawn, join all of these success stories. It's the anniversary sale where right now you can join the program for 50% off. That's right, 50% off. Call 855-GO-LIVEA, livea.com, livea.com, and experience weight loss success that makes you feel great. And then the best part is helping you keep the weight off, livea.com.
One of my favorite things, every once in a while when I need to drop some pounds, one of my favorite results is how great I look in my golf clothes. I might go out there and shoot a 106, but damn it, I look good doing it.
Damn, are you describing my golf game every Friday, Saturday for the last 2 years, Phil Mackey? Because that's exactly how I look and feel. And especially when I step on the course at the Meadows at Mystic Lake, an award-winning 18-hole public golf course. We were approaching fall golf weather. A little hot this week, but then we're cooling down, a little mid-low 70s. Perfect weather for golf. You can book your tee time for this weekend right now at golfthemeadows.com to learn more. Go out and get some, maybe shoot a below on 100 like me or Phil does, but go and book your tee time now at golfthemeadows.com.
How do you guys feel about the Kenta Maeda report that came out yesterday? I'm getting this from MLB.com that Derek Falvey said Kenta Maeda, who underwent Tommy John surgery on September 1st of last year, so we're almost a year to the day for Kenta Maeda's Tommy John surgery, that he's still feeling good and continuing his buildup, but the Twins are opting to be less aggressive in pushing him back to the field this season. It is unlikely he will return this regular season. He'll be 35 years old next year during the middle of the season. I can't remember when his birthday is, but he's 34 years old right now. He has 1 year left on his very team-friendly $3 million a year contract, but he has not pitched in over a year. Are you guys okay with the Twins holding back one of their potential critical chess pieces here for a stretch run?
I'm torn on this one because one, I don't know. If he's not prepared to pitch, he's just not. And so I can't say, I know he's set to come back and they're screwing up. But that being said, it did occur to me that a guy who, when he was with the Dodgers, pitched extensively out of the bullpen would be a nice bullpen arm now. Come in and throw 2. You're not going to ask for 6 from you, Kenta. So I guess I'm a little bit surprised that the decision, it sounds like, has been made. Dukes talked about this back about 2 months, about the fact that there was some back and forth about his potential return, and that return might be to the bullpen, which made a ton of sense. So it's hard to be upset not knowing the full extent of where he's at rehab-wise. But I will say this, I'm a little bit surprised that what seemingly is a fairly early in the process of there being season left, that this was not given more time to play out for him to potentially be coming out of the bullpen in the playoffs.
Dude, this guy, this is pretty, a small sample size alert here, but so he's pitched almost 37 and 2/3 career postseason innings, largely out of the bullpen. So his first 3 appearances were as a starter in 2016 for the Dodgers. Mixed results, but because they've been so loaded as an organization and starting pitching wise, he's never been one of their top 3 playoff starters because they have Clayton Kershaw and Walker Buehler and all these other guys. Right. And so he came out of the bullpen for the Dodgers in 2017, 18, and 19, and he was great. He has a career postseason ERA of 2.87, 11 strikeouts per 9 innings in the postseason for Kenta Maeda, and in the World Series, again, small sample size alert, but he made 4 appearances in the 2017 World Series against the Astros. Now, they lost that World Series, but do you guys remember that World Series?
I do.
I mean, that was like both teams knew what was coming the whole time. And then later on, it was figured out that the Astros had a system. So like the Astros knew what was coming the entire series, and Kenta Maeda was actually one of the only pitchers that dominated. He had 4 appearances, 5 2/3 innings, and he only allowed 1 run and like 6 base runners against a team that knew what was coming. So, I guess my thought on this is, listen, if you can't pitch, you can't pitch. But to make the determination a month before the playoffs start that he can't even fire up for like an inning or two at a time, a guy with World Series experience. Look up and down your bullpen right now. Who are the guys that you would trust in a big spot against a big lineup not to get super nervous or miss a spot, right? And again, he hasn't pitched in a year, so I just think it's a weird thing to determine a month in advance. I get that you don't want him maybe starting and throwing 80 or 100 pitches. I'm not going to rush that, but could he throw 25 or 30 in some high leverage spots against playoff competition? I would leave that door open if I were the Twins.
And why now? Like, why not let this play out? That's what I don't understand.
And maybe this was just like, hey, he happened to be, Falvey happened to be asked about this, and he gave his answer. But are they gonna? He kind of makes it sound like, we're basically gonna wind her down here for old Kenta. That 13 months after surgery, he wouldn't be ready to give you 25, 30 pitches in a game and then rest for a couple days. Doesn't need to be pitching back to backs or anything. I don't know. Kind of rubbed me the wrong way, I guess.
I mean, it was a pandemic shortened season, but that dude finished second in Cy Young voting for the Twins in his first season at age 32. And he's going to be 35 essentially by the time the second week of the season rolls around next year. So, I mean, pitchers are maybe getting better with more information out there and getting these surgeries, but it's probably not going to be the guy who had a sub-1 whip with the Twins in the pandemic shortened season anymore. And I think you could have used him in the postseason in a high leverage situation, which he has experience at.
Yeah, that guy freaking came in. I'm just looking through his postseason. He faced some lineups with the Dodgers, man. And then he faced those Red Sox lineups in 2018, and he was a guy. They were bringing him in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings of close games. There was a couple times where he'd come in. I don't know what the game flow was. I think it was game 5 in 2017. It was like a 4.5 hour game or something, and it was 13-12. And he came in he did give up that was the only home run he gave up in the 2 postseasons between 2017 and 18. But if he's not ready, he's not ready, I guess. Wouldn't want to push him. Do they have an obligation though? I mean, unless his camp is begging, here's what it is. If he would like to pitch in the postseason, I would offer him the chance right now and say, listen, you're in your mid-30s, you've been a veteran pitcher for a long time. We're a year out. You've been pitching bullpen sessions and stuff. If you feel like you can pitch out of the bullpen in a month from now in a playoff series, let's get you ready for that. If you want to. You have 1 year left on your contract with us. We don't know that we're going to be relevant next year or not, but we are right now. If he says, or if his camp says, I don't want to risk it, I'm going into a contract year. Okay, that's totally fair, dude. All good. But I would let his camp decide it.
Yeah, absolutely. And or just slow cook it. Just slow cook. Just say, you know what? We're not going to make that decision yet. Like, I wonder if there's more to this that they're not telling us about, like some type of small setback or something. Timing of
the Twins beat writer said there was no indication of a setback at all. Is what Derek
I'll back off. Then I'd like to apologize to everybody involved. But I mean, this does seem like a weird timing thing, and this team is vying for a playoff spot. It's been I would say, standings-wise, relatively successful year. You've got a chance. And look, I mean, you've got 8 games left against Cleveland, okay? So that's going to go a long way towards if you can win 5 or 6 of those games, deciding if you're a playoff team. So the door, despite how bad this team looked against Texas and then just absolutely got drubbed by Houston, the door is an absolutely no way shut here. And everyone in that franchise should be after what we are. 1 playoff win.
One playoff win. And then we'll take it from there. And then we'll
playoff
go
win. Win game 1.